of the rim. Got it! Oh, the slam! Oh, using Curry way downtown. Oh, what a shot from Curry!
So, as fate would have it, this is the 1 year I just was not able to get the scheduling right and get predictions out before the second round started. I really do hate that series are always ending the day another was starting and things happen, but I'm kind of glad because now looking at it, it's not that I have a cheat sheet for predictions, it's the personnel in these series have literally changed for some very important series. And if I had to talk about these series before, well, a lot of that talk would have just been useless now. So this is kind of still going to be predictions because the series are early. Only one of them is in game 2 or has game 2 finished. I don't think what I saw actually changed any of my predictions, but I want to talk about the start of these series anyways because, oh buddy, I have seen some things. As a Celtics fan, this game just wasn't even hard to be objective about. It is quite literally in the 15, 16, 17 years I've been around for them, it's quite literally one of the worst losses, probably in the playoffs, that I've seen. It was just such nauseating basketball. We watched the first half and they were hitting all their points. They put out the double big lineup to force New York to go double big. They got guys in foul trouble. By the end of the half, they were flailing and trailing on their way to being down 20. They had Precious Achiuwa out there. Josh Hart was being guarded like he was Tony Allen. Everything was good. And then the third quarter came. Boston ran the laziest offense I have ever seen, and it's not unlike things you see in the regular season. This was all the discourse at the beginning of the year with people saying they're ruining basketball, this, that, the other thing. They really are the epitome of, oh, today's NBA only takes threes sometimes. Here's the thing, Boston is built to always be able to get an open three. I'd say they're just a math team. Built that way, there's nothing any defense can do to stop them from getting an open three. The problem is they lean on it to the point it feels the coaching staff has just gone, look, the math is going to favor us more than it's not, and when the shots aren't falling, we're probably going to lose. And when they are falling, which is more often than not, we win. Now, I hate this. I hate this because even down to the last possessions, it was so winnable. Why on earth was Tatum getting favorable matches and proceeding to take the worst shots possible? It's so bad, and one thing I identified through that game is something I was suspicious about through the regular season, but another problem with this math is it works so often that when it doesn't, it really feels like they just don't know what to do. The drives in this game, the few times they said, okay, you know what, we're going to try to create some penetration, we're going to drive. It was sloppy, they were losing the ball, guys were in the wrong place to make the drive harder. It is actually one of the most confusing things I've seen from a team this talented, who has guys who can get downhill. So by the time Boston was done dicking off this third quarter, OG Anunoby had just continued what he was doing from the first half. Brunson got into his clutch moment and boom, you're down 0-1 in a game. I promise you, they had no business losing. I came into this series, my official prediction was going to be Celtics in 6, and I was telling my friend I was watching the game with, the only reason I didn't have it as 5 is because it's the Celtics. Especially with this core, I've been around long enough to know there are just sometimes going to be those games, and it was typically before they won a championship. There's going to be those games where even a novice watching the game could look and just go, why are they losing this way? What are they doing? It's like a 2023 loss all over again. So nothing has materially changed here. I still have the Celtics in 6 as I did before the series started. I was expecting them to have a dumb loss. I wasn't expecting it to be game 1 at home. This was more so one that would have happened later in the series. And I felt comfortable with it because New York just doesn't have a lot of advantages other than the fact the Celtics apparently don't care sometimes, or they just refuse to go against the math. Other than that, you saw it. Cat gets in foul trouble early. Having him at center is kind of untenable here, but then you play Mitch, who Boston then just uses against New York. There is zero fear of a Josh Hart 3. As a matter of fact, in the first half, that's just one of the things that was working so well is Boston was containing Jalen Brunson. They weren't worried about anyone else. It completely outplayed this lineup. And I think a lot of the things that had them up 20 in the first place are a lot of the things that will continue to happen throughout the series, and Boston should win it. I really feel like the game 1 scenario is the only type of game they'll lose. That they should lose is they just didn't make threes, which once again, I don't know why when a couple haven't gone down, you don't just throw the defense in, maybe post Tatum up, just different things so that if the game does get close in the fourth quarter, you're not running around like a chicken with his head cut off trying to drive for the first time because you've taken 7 threes in a row. Yeah, terrible Celtic loss. I don't feel differently. If they lose this series, if they lose game 2, It's just one of the worst playoff performances of all time. I'm sorry. There's no basketball reason the Celtics should not win this series. There's no basketball reason they shouldn't have won the last game. That was as simple as just getting to some different things, taking advantage of situations. Why do you have Brunson and Cat in pick and roll action? That's exactly what you want, and it ends up a tough Kobe Bryant-esque shot. Why? Celtics in 6, and if not, very, very deserved L. Oh, but there are basketball reasons Cleveland is losing their series 0-2. They've dropped both home games, namely injuries, which is a part of basketball. Yeah, magically, the Cavs go through this incredible season, and they're here in game 2 with no Darius Garland, no Evan Mobley, not even their trade piece DeAndre Hunter. Needless to say, this changes things quite a bit, but my problems were already starting when I was learning they wouldn't have Garland. The Heat series, I kind of was toying with the idea of, okay, it's a toe injury, maybe he needs some rest for it, and you're playing the Heat, you know you can beat them without him. I was wondering if it was going to linger over. It has lingered over. He hasn't played. Even when Darius Garland does play, he's the type of player who's going to need a healthy foot. He's going to need a healthy toe. I don't think on either side of the ball you're going to see, and this is especially bad for defense, you're not going to see the Garland you're used to if he does return. I feel so bad for Cleveland fans. I feel bad because they absolutely needed this. That wasn't a hit they could withstand. Without him, you end up with lineups and depending on Ty Jerome, not having him as a luxury. A lot of the things that are luxuries on this Cleveland roster, they aren't there when it's just Mitch. And as you saw in game 2, he went and basically had to score 50, did everything he could, they still lost. That was a game I expected them to lose. I didn't even know why they were up in the first place. So this is one of those series where I benefit, and not because of the basketball I seen, but because of who I seen showing up. If I had been healthy Cavs Pacers, I was going to pick the Cavs. Based on what I had seen this season, the defense, the advantages I thought Mitchell was going to be able to create, the shooting nights I thought might favor Cleveland. Look, I thought it was going to be really competitive. The Pacers, I think last year, beating all those injured teams kind of made them easy to ignore. You just went and looked at a team who had been decent throughout the year, but not expected to be in the conference finals. They started this season poorly, but ever since the calendar turned to 2025, they've been a really good team. I did not think the Cavs were just going to walk over them. I still did trust them to win. Immediately with the Garland removal, that was almost enough for me to flip it to Indiana. Yet alone missing 2 more rotation pieces. This is just massively unfortunate. Indy now goes back home with a 2-0 lead, all the momentum. One of Halliburton's, my bad, this is probably the signature Halliburton playoff moment. He's been clutch all his career so far. It's carrying right over. And this is just a hard one to deal with going forward because we just don't know anything. Is Evan Mobley playing next game? Is Hunter playing? Is Garland playing? Is he going to be good? We don't know anything. I don't know enough about Cleveland to give them the benefit of the doubt to come back in this series while being down 0-2 and having lost home court. I don't have it. If they do it, and I'm wrong. But even with a Mitch explosion, let's say Evan Mobley comes back, but there's no Garland. Cleveland can win in that scenario. Now that they're down, I still favor Indy. Let's say everyone's healthy. Now it just depends on what Garland you got. Can he do enough to get them over the hump? And this is the part where going to Indy actually hurts because now it's an uphill battle with moving parts. There's just too much going on, man. I think Indy's going back to the conference finals, and I wish we had gotten to see this series play out healthy. We don't even have enough health to really know what's going to happen in the next week. Wow. How about these Western Conference series and the Denver Nuggets stealing game 1 from the Oklahoma City Thunder? This is interesting. I have some on and off court things to say. Let's start with the on, that's the most relevant. Coming in, I'm gonna tell you straight up, I'd have picked OKC in 6. I've been very clear how I felt about Denver this year, but buddy, outside of surviving the Clippers series, the coaching they came into this game with, they played it down by around 10 points for most of the time, but the things they were doing were already concerning for the Thunder in that they don't have a lot of ways to figure them out. I think I'm going to have a video about bigs and how size is kind of reintegrating itself into the league right now. But Jokic is always the problem for any team that's playing the Denver Nuggets. And unfortunately for the Thunder, the issues might be a good bit worse. Chet is not ready for that yet. He just isn't. Hardenstein, just like anybody else, doesn't fare a ton better. And this is an issue because now OKC, at least for game 1, went, all right, well, we're not going to have Chet go 1v1 with Jokic. We're going to have him as a help defender. That's cool, except now rebounding is an issue, and now the whole team is trying to rebound, and then AEG comes and crashes. So far, that looks like an advantage for the Nuggets. Russ continues to play off of Jokic in a great way. If guys are hitting shots, Denver just becomes a problem for a team who doesn't even have a decent way to defend Jokic. Now, offense. I think this might be the even bigger issue. even though they played a lot of this game up 10, the Denver Nuggets did something that's kind of speaking to what I've seen in the playoffs more than I think I've ever seen. Coaching staffs are really looking at players who aren't sharpshooters now and just saying, you know what, prove it. Don't care that you shot 40% from 3 this season. Don't care that you're an improved shooter. If you are not a sharpshooter, you have to prove it. And so that's how you get OKC being defended like they're a mid-2000s team. They're looking at Shea saying, and he still is going to get his numbers. He's that good. It just didn't look as dominant as it did during the regular season. It looks like he had to work a little bit harder. And J-Dub, second best player on the team, he's being guarded like a non-factor. And he really was a non-factor in this one. He shot terribly from 3. And so that's how the Nuggets went at it. Lou Dort, J-Dub, cool, y'all can shoot. Y'all are not sharpshooters. So unfortunately, you're gonna have to find some other ways to be effective here if you're not hitting your shots. And I am interested to see how this holds up because, man, it's allowing Denver to do things like have Jokic on the corner or defending a corner with Isaiah Joe and Kaysen Wallace. These are shooters. But in the 2025 playoffs, coaching staffs are saying, all right, cool. Well, show me then. I'd rather you shoot than the MVP. And so Denver did enough of these things long enough in game 1 to hang around and steal it at the end. And when I watched it, surprisingly, it didn't feel like just a random run where they won a game they shouldn't have. It felt like they did things to keep themselves in it until the end. And it felt like they did things OKC is going to have to think about. And so that's why I was definitely a little bit disappointed in J-Dub in the press conference because you have a terrible performance. You're in the second round, by the way. This is not a series you should lose after the regular season you just had. You looked head and shoulders above most of the competition. But you have a terrible game 1 here. It's part of the reason your team lost. And a reporter asked a very fair question about the rebounding. That's something they're going to have to figure out. And he gets up there and tries to make the Torian Prince joke after the whole little Gatorade bit. And I'm just like, look, cool, whatever. Not penalizing personality, I guess. It's just in that moment after the things I saw, I wonder about the locked in factor. I really do. I am going to be watching him under a microscope because he has to be the guy to take some pressure off of SGA. He can get his 30. He's going to find ways to play out of double teams. He's going to find ways to hit guys. You know, he's going to do his part. But Dub cannot be out there as a bait piece, essentially, you know? And so the Nuggets coached and played their way to a win in game 1. I'm going to push this to Thunder in 7, I would say. I'm not going to let game or just one game throw my entire prediction off. I believed in OKC a lot this year. I will say, however, if I'm not mistaken, it was Luka Doncic. Someone like that at the end of the season said that Shea makes OKC look better than they actually are. I'm going to be honest, game 1 looked like that quote pasted on the screen. They were good, but it felt like a lot of, okay, what can Shea do? What can he create? What does the defensive attention on him create? And it felt a lot less like, oh, there's Shea, there's J-Dub, there's Chet. And so yeah, game 2 is going to be a wild run. I expect adjustments from OKC. However, I will point out, massive mistake at the end of game 1, which I believe comes from the coaching staff. If we're talking about adjustments and such, fouling up 3 almost immediately when Jokic wasn't even in the game, I thought it was a mistake. So yeah, just keep coaching in mind in this series and watch for the adjustments from OKC. I assume J-Dub is going to become a bigger part of this series, but boy, I am fascinated by not just Denver, but every team in the playoffs so far, just daring guys who are not sharpshooters to be effective against a zone. That really might change things a bit here. And finally, Warriors Wolves. So this is the other series where I think I benefited from time here because now Steph Curry is out with a hamstring injury. We've been having an amazing playoffs. We get to the second round. Now Cleveland is busted up. Now Steph has a hamstring. And as I'm recording this, don't have an update on it. I just know I don't like anything about hamstring injuries, especially in the middle of a playoff run. That being said, game 1 very much looked, I'm not gonna lie, kind of how I expected. So after watching Minnesota against LA, I immediately began to pay more attention to the size and how they're playing against small teams and went, okay, cool. Looks like the Warriors are gonna have to play Kevon Looney. Except when size forces certain teams to play a certain way, it looks different. For instance, the Knicks having to go double big against Boston, they lost that battle in the first half. The Warriors have won championships playing with Kevon Looney. He's part of that system. He knows what to do out of a pick and roll. He's not just a body out there doing cardio. So they can play size, they can still be good. And that was one of the things I was leaning towards Golden State with is just this is a core that has been in the playoffs for so long. Their system, a lot of the times offensively, is just above the teams they're playing. And oh, buddy, they made a point to go at Rudy Gobert for the little bit of time Steph was out there. Draymond at the beginning, they said, come out here, play defense. We know you don't guard threes well. I think Dre had 4 3-pointers in what was that, a quarter and a half. They then went to a 1-3-1 zone because, once again, prove it. Cool, Randall's playing better. Cool, some of you guys can hit shots. All right then, we'll do it because Rudy Gobert's on the floor and we're not afraid of him. We're not afraid of him catching the ball. We're not afraid of basically anything he has to offer on offense. We're gonna take away a basic PNR, so you're not gonna just have him hitting guys and making good passes. We're going to try to make him useless. And especially Draymond, that one, it just felt personal from him. So the Warriors take game 1, and that was without Steph in the first. Now, going forward, not knowing if Steph is going to play, not knowing what the hamstring entails. Like, do I get up here and say the Warriors are going to win this series without Steph? Dre says Jimmy has carried teams to finals before. Yeah, he can definitely probably step into that #1 spot. Still, there is the point. If you're going to have to go at it for multiple games without the floor spreader, I don't know if certain lineups are going to generate enough to win a series, especially with the way Kerr does rotations. He doesn't hesitate to take guys out when they're hot. And then you all of a sudden have a lineup that you're looking at and asking, where does the scoring come from? Do the Wolves shoot better from 3? The last couple of games, they've sucked from there. How much do they play Rudy? The Warriors have already shown they will put a big body out there, and they're also going to defend you a certain way when he's on the floor. Which Julius Randle are we going to get? Because the one we got in the LA series is not the one we got in game 1. The one we got in the LA series was a game changer. When he's making good decisions, he's limiting mistakes, all of a sudden it bothers you a lot less that he's out there on the floor with Rudy. On paper, that just didn't look like a great match. Yeah, a lot of moving parts in this one, so I'm just gonna have to guess. I'm gonna say if Steph's hamstring is good to go and they get him back, even if he misses the next game, I think they're gonna win. If they don't get him back at all, I would pick the Wolves. I just think that's asking a lot, and Minnesota probably isn't going to be terrible from 3 the entire series. Ant's going to have a game. I know he's had some bad games as well that don't get covered as much, but he's gonna find his way at some point. Trey's been shooting better as of late, but especially without Steph, now 4 3-pointers goes from a luxury to something you're kind of hoping for. Yeah, just way too many moving parts. I'm not gonna cop out though. I'm gonna, because of everything that's kind of changing, I'm gonna go Warriors in 7. We'll see what happens. We'll see when Steph comes back, what he looks like, just taking everything into consideration, and that's adjusting for if he misses a game, which I kind of expect him to for the type of injury that looked like. I'd say Warriors in 7, and if Steph does not come back, I would then go Wolves in 7. Trusting Golden State though. I know Minnesota looked really good against LA. That was also a beautiful matchup for them, or it turned out to be. All right, well, after these game 1s, the road team won all of them for the first time ever. Hopefully we can stay somewhat healthy going forward. This has been phenomenal basketball. Hopefully we don't lose too many more teams to injury, because at this point it feels like we've lost Cleveland to it. Let me know what you think about the playoffs so far and what you think will happen going forward. Hit the like button, comment, and sub if you enjoyed, while hitting the bell next to my name if you want notifications every time a new video drops. Appreciate you watching, and I'll see you all on the next one.